situation, it's very specific. 5:30 in the morning, will I, won't I get out and get an exercise? Might be in the afternoon, will I, won't I, when we're getting petrol, buy that chocolate bar. As you know, when you pay for petrol, there's chocolate bars, will I buy a chocolate with it? Will I buy takeaway because I can't be bothered cooking? So has everyone got a point in time?
I find when I'm busy, like when I'm really busy,
Yep.
and I've got heaps of other things to do,
Yep.
that it's easiest to go, I haven't got time
Great.
today, like I've got to finish
Yep.
work.
Great. So your decision point is, yeah, will I buy a takeaway or not because I don't have time? So think of a point in time. And then the second question is, this is about your unhelpful thinking. So you've got two types of thinking. You've got unhelpful, so negative thinking, and helpful. So what I want you to do here is to write down, at that point in time, what are the justifications and excuses you say to yourself before you blow it? So that's going to be something like, I don't have time to cook. It might be, I feel like a chocolate biscuit. It might be, more sleep would be good. It might be, I shouldn't eat it. Because what happens when you say you shouldn't? You go and do it. You might say, I can't do this. I'm not allowed to eat this on my diet. It might be, one extra glass of wine might hurt. So these are all the justifications and excuses that give you the opportunity to go and blow it. So what are some of the justifications and excuses that go through your mind?
What about this? Is saying that you deserve it unhelpful? Like, you know,
Yes. Yep. So Lisa, that's a good point. There are two ways of thinking, because people often think that it's got to be a negative thought, like I can't do this, or you know, whatever. But it also can be a neutral thought. So a neutral thought is, what was the one you just said? I deserve this. Because when you think like that, what do you reckon is going to happen? You go and do it. More sleep would be good. That doesn't sound negative, does it? So your thinking can be neutral, or they can be very negative. They can have a sting in their tail. So more sleep would be good. Oh, there's no calories in a sliver. All hubby's having one, I'll have one too. Those sorts of thoughts, they don't sound negative, but then when you look at your behaviour, it actually impacts on your behaviour. So think of any sort of, we call them unhelpful thoughts. Any other unhelpful thoughts?
I've been good all day.
I love it. I've been good all day. Or like Jean said, I've done 6 exercise classes this week. That might be a legitimate thing, actually. My excuse this morning was, I'm tired, I've got a presentation to do. I'll exercise later. Whether I do it or not, who knows? So there you go. So has everyone got some unhelpful thoughts? So what I want you to think about now is, when you think like that, the next question here, well actually what I'd like you to do is under that, just under unhelpful thinking, is just think of the consequences. So when you're thinking like that, what happens? And the consequences are going to be that maybe you might eat more, you may not exercise, but I want you to think about the impact. What happens if you perpetually keep thinking like that? You might just jot down some points there. I should put that in as a line. So what's the impact? So as we said before, if you think, oh well, I deserve an extra piece of whatever, you do it. How do you feel? So you can see the relationship here, it starts to impact on yourself and how you feel. You guilt yourself. So start to think of the positive, the negative downward spiral. And sometimes if you find that you can't think of it today, whenever you feel that things aren't working, you might just pull this out and go, really, what is my thinking? Some people find it really hard to catch themselves out thinking like this. So I've had, particularly men, this is just gender bias, they think, well, I either do it or I don't. So sometimes I set them a bit of detective work and say, the next time that you go to sabotage, just be mindful and just think of what's going through your head. And those experiments tend to work because you find that sometimes their thinking is so automatic, you don't know what's going through your mind. So maybe you've never been aware of it. So the first port of call is always to just think about it when you're in that situation and just check out what you do. And that can be a way of investigating what your true values are. So the next thing is to think about, they're all your unhelpful thoughts, right? You can't get rid of those thoughts, but you can replace them with some helpful thoughts. Now, helpful thoughts don't have to be positive, Pollyanna, I love myself statements, unless you believe that. Helpful thoughts have to be something that you truly believe. So as I said before, it could be something like reminding yourself of the benefits. It could be reminding yourself of the consequences, or it could be like Liz's example, don't think, just do it. So I want you to think about, what could you say to yourself that would make you more likely to do something a little bit more healthier. So if it was about I deserve an extra slice of cake or something, and maybe you should, maybe it is giving yourself permission to do it, or maybe it's I've already treated myself 3 times this week, I don't need it, or maybe it's maybe it's wait till next week, or I'm working towards my goal, I deserve to be successful. Maybe it's I'll feel worse off if I do this. So have a think about a thought, whether it's positive, whether it's reminding yourself of the consequences, or I don't think, just do it. Could be just a one-word statement. I had one farmer who saw me for diabetes, and he said, I walked him through this because he kept talking himself out of exercising. I said, what do you need to say to yourself? He goes, I'll do it for my doctor. And I said, do you really believe that? And he goes, no. Okay, so he was trying to just impress me too, like I'll do it for the health professional. It's got to be something that you truly believe, because if you don't believe it, it's not going to happen. Yeah. So for him it was get off your lazy butt and do it. And he said that works for him. Another tip, if you're using unhelpful thoughts like, I deserve this, you're going to do it. If you say, don't do it, what happens? You go and do it. So that's quite black and white. You're either giving yourself permission or you're putting a big rule on yourself, and that's where you're going to go and break it. So sometimes a helpful thought can be asking yourself a question instead. So, do I need this? And so if you're asking yourself a question of, do I need this? What's going to happen in your head when you're asking yourself that question? You're weighing it up. Yeah. So you're not saying yes, but you're not saying no. So if you're saying, do I need this? Then you're going to go, well, I do want it, but, and you start to yes but yourself. Yeah. What if it's in relation to if you're putting, getting on the scales, or maybe you're doing a bit of a fitness test, or maybe you're doing a waist measurement, and you're not seeing the results? What are the sort of unhelpful thoughts that go through our mind when we don't see the results that we expected? And it could be in relation to anything.
Well, if I'm trying so hard and it's not working, why bother?
Why bother? Yep. So if I'm trying so hard and it's not working, what's the point? Okay. So you can see the consequences that happen after that, right? So what could you say to yourself at that point in time when you are not seeing the numbers that you may have expected? And this is where you need a bit of rational thinking. So you think logically, because we're very irrational when we don't get those numbers. Logically, you tell me, if you're not getting those numbers of waist or weight or fitness measurements, what's the interpretation then?
Takes time.
Yep, takes time, absolutely. What else?
Keep going. Yeah.
Keep going. Yep, what else?
Doing everything right, just hang in there and work eventually.
It will work eventually. So you can see that they're a little bit more, is that true? Absolutely. So if you don't believe it, then you're going to have to go back and really think about it. But we know that if we all went on the same regime, we would all get different results. Some would actually blitz it pretty quickly, others would just sit there at the end and do that, because every body makeup is different. And remember, in relation to fitness and weight and waist, like you said, if you're doing everything right, you might go back and go, yep, doing this, doing that. It's just going to take time. So if you thought more like that, that's a helpful thought. You would be more likely to keep on track. You're reminding yourself, keep going, because then what's going to happen if you don't? You've got you own yourself to really to coach. What about some comments? Does anyone want to share theirs, or does anyone have any? Is anyone stuck with one of their helpful thoughts, or you want to share it? Because it's not easy. Unhelpful thoughts are easy to identify because they're automatic. Helpful thoughts are really hard because if we're thinking in a helpful way, we will be achieving the goal that we wanted to achieve.